we need to talk about Guzman. This is a real screenshot that I took while playing him today. Now, I'll admit, it's a little clickbaity, all right? You probably saw the thumbnail. It's going to say Guzman S tier, and it's going to show this. I don't honestly think Guzman is S tier. I love Guzman. There's a running joke on my channel that I always put him in S tier, tier 0, whatever the top tier is, because he's my favorite visual design in the game. And I do genuinely think he is very good. But I'm not going to be saying he's like top of the tier. You must pull this. At the end of the day, this is a gotcha. And if a new player sees my tier list, or, you know, they hear me say Guzman, you should re-roll for Guzman, and they do it, that can hurt them in the long run, right? So I want to be honest, even though I like the joke to keep going. Now, this is also not the build we're going to be looking at. This is real, but it is also everything going right, and me equipping things that deal less damage to make the stat go higher. So I'm going to show you a different build that will do more damage, but the stat won't be quite as high. But it made for a good thumbnail, I thought. So let's talk about Guzman. So this character gets shit on pretty much more than any other character in the game. The only other character that might get shit on more is like Miguel, and Miguel deserves it. Miguel is really bad, but really Guzman is like straight up, like, again, he's like mid-tier at least, like minimum. I think he's like mid-tier. I think he's closer to Pamina than he is Miguel, if I had to make like a case for him, right? He's kind of in the same boat as like a Simona, I would say. Yeah, so why is he good? What does he do? He just does a lot of different things depending on how you build him, and I'm not sure why he gets so much hate. Maybe it's because he looks so cool, and then I won't say he's not like a high skill character, but he is he does a lot of different things, and it could be hard to get the most out of him, I think. But so one of the first things that's best about him is how bad his trait is. And I know it's a weird spot to start. His trait kind of fucking sucks, which is good because you don't really need to star him up. So if you have a 1-star Guzman, you have like 80, 85% of his power. Unlike some characters that don't even really get functional until 3 or 4 stars, Guzman just starts off pretty much at full power. If you take a look here, his thing is, he basically, when he dies, he comes back to life, and also as he gets closer to dying, he gets more stats. He gets 5% attack and 10% when he's dying. But the only thing that changes is this goes from 5% when dying to 7% at 2-star, and then at 4-star it goes to 10%. So if you had him at 5 stars, for example, the best case scenario is that you would have 5% more attack when injured, and when dying, you get 10% more attack than what you're currently getting. So it's really, that's not nothing, but that's pretty minor in the grand scheme of things. The other thing it changes is when he dies and he's resurrecting, you know, his corpse, and after he gets back up, he loses all of his defense until the end of the battle. That goes from 100% to 80% to 50%. These are very, very not good upgrades. So I would say get Guzman to 2-star and you're getting 90, 95% of the power you can get out of him. 3-star, I think, is a mistake. You don't care about him losing his defense when he dies because he's already dead. He's not inherently harder to kill, easier to kill. On the contrary, it's harder to kill. So point is, his stars being a low priority, I actually think makes it pretty easy to invest into him because it's basically just gear at that point. And his gear is not that crazy weird. You could use a lot of the same gear other people use. So let's go into his skills. So first, he has Furious Pursuit. This is arguably the best skill that Tristan has, one of the newest, highest damage DPS characters. Guzman has had it all along. It's 180% damage. It does 120%, and if they're not dead, you do a follow-up attack that costs 20% of your HP, and you deal 60% more damage. So costing the HP is a positive in this case, because you want to stay injured near dying, and you do 180% damage over 2 hits. For 2 energy, no cooldown. This ability is really, really strong. The fact that Tristan got it, and it's like a lot of people are like, oh, this is like her best skill. Like, it doesn't do, she has some cool AoE stuff, but as far as pure damage output, this is still her best skill. So very, very strong skill. And that's honestly, Guzman could do a lot of damage with that. I think we're going to do over 100,000 damage in the video that we're going to show you here. So what else does he get though? He gets so much good stuff. I would say his worst rank is rank 1, and then every other rank is pretty fucking sick. And rank 1 is still fine, but I don't think I'll end up using these later on. So he has 2 passives. The first one is if the character defeats an enemy, recovers 20% HP and 1 energy at the end of the turn. This is okay. I don't have it. The thing is about it is recovering the energy makes it so you get Furious Pursuit more consistently, but it doesn't do anything if you don't kill somebody. And healing is not exactly what Guzman wants to do all the time. You kind of want to maintain a mid level of health. So I don't particularly like this. The other one though, the one I did get, is pretty cool, but it's kind of power creep now. At the end of the turn, you inflict damage down 1 and vulnerable 1 to all enemies within 2 tiles. That's honestly not a bad aura just to have passively. If he ends within 2 turns of an enemy, they get vulnerable and damage down. I mean, I like it. I don't use it that much anymore, but if I had to take one of these, I'd take this. Plus, it gives them 3% defense. I think defense is more important than HP on him. Some people disagree because the corpse can respawns with full HP, and you want them dying. So if you have a high HP, the dying threshold moves up. But I still like just having the defense, and we'll get to that in a minute. Rank 3, these are both very good abilities. This is what I mean when I say Guzman does a lot. He has a lot of flexibility in exactly what he could do. And it's obvious is rank 7, 3, and 11 are both very, very different abilities. So rank 3, the first one he has here, Earthshaker, it's a 3-turn cooldown, which is kind of slow, but it's a 50% AoE to all enemies in a 3-tile straight line, and it stuns them for a turn. If enemies can be stunned, this is, I'm sorry, I'm covering the part that I like. It is stunning. This could hit 3 targets. I probably won't hit 3, but it'll always hit 1, and it might hit 2. 2 targets, so you're trading his turn for stunning 1 or 2 other characters while dealing damage. This is a situational ability. On maps that it's good, it's very good. And on maps where everything's immune to it, then it doesn't do anything. You just don't use it. But this is like a super good ability in general. When it comes up that you want to use something like this, it is actually pretty fantastic. And I love having access to this. It's just nice for like a damage dealing tanky dude you could be dealing Furious Pursuit and then turn around and Earthshaker another 2 guys if you just need to for some reason. And then Soul Catcher, another kind of super badass ability. You select 1 enemy within a cross shape, so just in a straight line, and then you deal 100% AoE damage. Another thing about these being AoE, it means that cover tanks don't work, right? Cover, if you have like it's more important on this other ability, but if you have like a tank that's going to jump in front of an attack, they don't jump in front of AoE attacks. So the fact that this is AoE damage, even though it targets a unit, I don't believe they could jump in front of it. Same with like, there was just a boss that did like a single target AoE thing. And even though it was single target, you couldn't dodge, you couldn't cover from it. Like Coco wouldn't jump in front of it. So it does 100% AoE and inflicts move 2. This drags it to himself as well. So this is a Spider-Man thing. You go at 4 tiles away, you grab a unit, deal reasonable damage. It's like an auto attack, but you can do this every turn. You pull them towards you. They can't even jump in front of it to protect from it. So you could basically ignore cover. And it pulls them right next to you in range, and then it inflicts them with move down 2, so it's really hard for them to get away if they had to try to get away. I mean, if it's outside of PvP, it's not going to try to get away anyway. But it also just does good damage, and it's a relatively reasonable energy cost for range. The height up and down can kind of suck because you can't really pull things down, but this is really good for getting a valuable enemy out of position. It's also good even if they can't be pushed or pulled or anything like that. This is still your ranged poke while you're closing the distance. Not exactly what you want to be doing, but it can be used in that way as just a way to do range and lower movement if they still have an immunity to it. So again, he could reposition units. He gets to stun units in an AoE. He gets the ability to lower damage and add vulnerable to units. At rank 5, his reaction, you can give him the ability to strike back, which I think is reasonable. But I just took the survival instinct. You get 8% damage reduction before being attacked. If you're injured, you get an additional 15%. And if you're dying, you get an additional 50%. So he gets a ton of damage reduction when he's dying. I still don't think this is enough to keep him alive if he's actually in the dying state against, maybe against, in PvP, it's enough. But in PvE, some of their stats are just so high where it kind of brutes forces through it. So I think this counterattack could be better just to get some more damage, but I'm not entirely sure, but it works really well with the rank 7 here. So rank 7, you're definitely going to take the one on the left here. Every single time, the evil Luxite. Let's just talk about that really quick. It's an instant skill. Instant skills are very good. They're not at all rare anymore, but this is still, it's good to have access to an instant skill in maps where you can move onto something that gives you act again, use an instant skill, then you can move and then attack, or, you know, you get like 2 actions, right? Instant skills, and it lets you just reposition to do different things. Instant skills are good. First thing you do is you sacrifice 45% of your HP. That is already positive. This puts you into the injured state. You want to be injured because you get your first attack buff. And you have the toughness, so you don't got to worry about that. So in general, it's just good to be on lower HP. Being injured is good. But then you also gain attack too. So you get your own attack ranked up, you know. So that's pretty much the best buff you're going to get outside of a tactics currently. You give yourself move 1, so he actually is on average a 4 movement unit, which is higher than most units even have. Then he gives himself regeneration 3 for 3 turns, which is a 30% regeneration at the end of his turn. So he sacrifices 45%, so he's injured. He can then attack while injured to get that benefit. And then he's going to heal back up 30% of that 45% that he just took. So he's only going to be missing, he's going to be at 85% life, right? Which is great. This ability is just super good. This is like his bread and his butter. I would never take this off his bar. It buffs him. It helps him move around. It even heals him. It helps him initiate his damage state. Very, very good ability. And it always takes his current HP, so it never kills him as well. So if you're below a certain HP threshold, getting the regeneration is just a pure positive heal as well. Very good ability. Gonna make him. It lasts for 3 turns on a 4-turn cooldown, so there's a 1 turn where it doesn't work. But if you have something like Coco or something just to lower the cooldown by 1 turn, that also is reasonable. Then he gets protective counterattack. This is so different from every other ability we've had, right? We have a self buffer that can misplace units, can stun units. This is a cover tank for magic attacks. Now this is narrow. This ability is very good, but it is very narrow. Where he covers and takes damage, but it's only for magical attacks within 2 tiles. However, the second part, so you take 30% less magical damage. He likes having magic defense. Then, for all other allies within 2 tiles, you will cover and take their magic attacks. Again, this doesn't happen that much, but it is possible. But the second part here, when attacked by an enemy within 3 tiles, you strike back, dealing 70% damage. This can be activated 2 times per round for 3 turns. So effectively, for 1 action, for 1 turn, he gets 140% damage for free for 3 turns, right? So this is essentially what, 280, 420 damage, I believe, over the course of 3 turns, if you're, you know, over a bunch of different enemies and stuff. But if they just target him and they attack him, he'll attack them back within 3 tiles. That's pretty fucking good, man. Because this part is separate, right? Whenever he's attacked by an enemy, he's going to do the strike back. So that's good. The first part of it is only going to work when you're doing the cover stuff, right? Because that's like a cover for magic. But this is pretty damn good just to have in general, because it lasts for 3 turns. You could use it every 3 turns. So it's basically for the entire combat, he gets to strike back 2 times for 70%. At a range of 3, which is further than Pamina, although Pamina is a stronger for sure. I don't want to confuse you there, but this does have flexibilities that hers doesn't have. So this is a very good attack that I feel like I've never heard anyone talk about. It's pretty powerful. And rank 9 is actually pretty reasonable. You can get shield break. I don't care about this at all anymore. I think that shield break is pretty bad, especially shield break 1. But even though it's not that good, armor piercing strike, you get physical defense down 1, magic defense down 1. So he gives 2 different defense down 1s, meaning if you don't have something that can just like easily do more of it, this is still pretty reasonable for a basic attack. I like it as a basic attack because, right, you're doing damage down, vulnerable down, physical defense down, magic defense down. So he's kind of like a light debuffer, move down. He's got a lot of ways to like slightly debuff the enemies, but it's not his main part of his kit. And then rank 11, these are 2 drastically different abilities, very drastic and equally as good in their own way. The one that most people are aware of is Lives Devouring. Prepares for 1 turn. You take 60% less damage during this period. This is huge. Then you deal 105% AoE damage to all enemies within 4 tiles. Then before attacking, you get lifesteal. So you basically, everything within 4 tiles is going to get hit with a slightly more powerful normal attack, right? So this isn't like crazy damage. It's really good at killing a lot of weak stuff, especially if you can get yourself close to dying because maybe they attack you and you get pretty low, and then this blows up. So it does prepare for a turn. So he uses it and it doesn't go off immediately. It doesn't go off until his next turn. But what's really good about this is, unlike like Beryl has like the big explosion or whatever, where she gets stunned for a turn or she skips her next turn. So he's gonna use a turn. He's gonna start charging. Kamehameha. And then his turn comes around a second, again, he goes, bah, and he blows up. He hits everybody for 105% damage. He heals the full, and then he gets his turn right then. That wasn't his turn. That activated on the start of his turn. So now he gets to go up and hit something with his Furious Pursuit for 180% damage. So or you could just activate this again if you manage to get the cooldown enough, but you don't actually lose any turns here while doing it. Because then you don't get an attack this turn, but you get 2 attacks the turn after, right? So this is a pretty darn good ability. Again, this is mostly dedicated to doing, like, if you have a bunch of weak stuff, or if you just want to tank up, because you take way less damage. If you know something's going to try to hit him, then he heals a little bit after he does it. So this ability has a lot of good uses. Definitely an ability I enjoy. And then the other ability here is maybe his best ability out of all of them. It looks really simple, and I don't feel like I hear anybody talk about this ability. This ability is fucking sick. Single target attack. Deals 130% damage. Plat, that's less than Furious Pursuit. And it costs more. And has a cooldown. I'll admit, that's all bad. All right. Before attacking, read the rest of the skill, buddy. Okay. Before attacking, you gain mana conversion and will for 2 turns. These are 2 unique buffs currently that only exist on Guzman on this skill. You do 130% damage, but before attacking, you get mana conversion and will. What do these do? Oh my goodness. Mana conversion. Boost physical attack by 80% of the character's magic defense. Now, this is not as crazy as like the 70-80% that August can get with his magic attack. It's not as crazy as Tristan's, but I don't want you to dismiss this. 80% of your own magic defense added to your physical attack. That's a pretty damn big boost, man. That's a lot of free stats. Then also will, if you're at least injured, I believe you could be dying as well, I'm pretty sure, you get a 50% increase to your magic defense. It lasts for 2 turns. So you really get that when you activate this attack, he uses this, and then you get it then, and then you get it the turn after, so you're probably going to want a Furious Pursuit. This ability is so strong, though. So this is kind of what I'm trying to highlight, is he has a lot of builds, right? You could do a single target damage nuke build with the Evil Luxite. Then you go up and you Darkest Blade something, and then you get this big boost of damage, and then the next turn you Furious Pursuit for a bunch of damage. You can go with an AoE style build instead, where you're doing your AoE focused damage, be it through this 3-hit thing, and your lives devouring, just to kill out a bunch of chump, kind of. You could go with a magic tank build with a strike back direction, right? You're doing a bunch of strike backs. You could take the counterattack here, just have a bunch of strike backs. You could be with just like a you can totally forget the Darkest Blade and just go Bruiser. You could just use the Evil Luxite, and you could use the Coercion to kind of lower their defenses, and this use Furious Pursuit. You could be a disruptor. You could stun characters. You can pull them out of position. You could use this as like a ranged poke. You could also just be a straight debuffer, right? Magic defense down, physical defense down, damage, vulnerable, movement down. And some, like those last couple ones, aren't necessarily the best way to use him. But what I'm trying to say is that he could do a lot. He just does a lot of different things, and he does them all well. As far as like AoE damage goes, this is one of the biggest AoEs in the game in terms of how fast it just fires off, because it doesn't skip his turn, right? So pretty good damage. I could just go on. Like the fact that almost all of these skills are good. I actually am thinking about bringing Counterattack, and because sometimes I bring Guzman and I just want to use Protective Counterattack and Counterattack. Just have him run up on his own against a bunch of, I don't know, because he's a darkness. So just have him go up against a bunch of Seekers or something that come up and try to hit him. They go to attack him, and you just smack them in the head before, after they attack you. You got to do those 2 and do this one. So you're doing pretty good damage there. And then your turn comes around, because then you still have 2 turns of this up without needing to activate it. Now you can start using your, your Luxite to heal you. You could use I actually don't think you could counterattack while you're doing Lives Devouring. That'd be kind of weird. But he is a very good character in general. I just think he's great, honestly. He has this like insanely good stats as well. He has some of the highest base stats that I've seen. Can I take a look at here? No, okay. So equipment. What kind of equipment do I recommend? Number one is the Brutal Axe. When attacking, if an enemy's HP percentage is higher than this character's, you ignore 40% of their defense, and it gives them 10% HP. HP is very good on him, again, because it increases the basically threshold of the dying state, so you get a lot more defensive, you know, you get the survival instincts kicking on, you get more damage. So when he's dying, he's typically just stronger. You could run the, if you want to double up on that, I don't usually keep him near dying because it's just a little bit difficult. You could run double pentacle. You're going to go ahead and get 10% more damage and decrease damage taken by another 10%, right? I think that's pretty good. I just like having more damage focused Guzman because I think it's more fun. But, you know, whatever, to each their own. So I don't think there's really a world where you don't use the Brutal Axe. You could use the Hollow Axe because you have that conversion. But I think that I was actually going to use the Cornucopia Axe, but I don't recommend people get that pretty much ever. Or you can just go straight with like a tuning hammer and get more damage. As far as the equipment, the trait goes, I like having, like, you could use the Crystal Bust Armor if you're going with the counterattack build, right? Other than that, I don't really think it matters too much, if I'm being completely honest. You could just go with something that does a bunch of damage. Like, you could even use the Flying Arm Guard. It doesn't do that much. I like using Maverick's Cloak because it has such a fat passive in terms of attack and defense, just 12%. And I just kind of keep Guz, because it's okay if he dies, because he picks himself back up, right? So it's really hard for him to just die out of nowhere, and he has self-healing. So I kind of like having that Maverick's Cloak in general. Sometimes the cooling powder could be very important, but I tend to stick with things like the Crystal Bust Armor and the Maverick's Cloak myself. I might occasionally use something like a healing pill if I really think he's going to need the backup of healing. But for the most part, I just go with the highest damage and the highest stats. Now, as far as these go, the Taros, I do like the Devil on him quite a bit. Mostly because he gets benefits from both the attack and the defense, right? The defense, the magic defense will increase his damage if you're using the Darkest Blade, which I think is very useful. Other than that, things you could use, the only ones I wouldn't recommend are the normal damage ones, like Majesty of the Emperor is something I like to use a lot, not super good. If you're using the big AoE, then obviously Magician is going to be fantastic. If you want to go more tanky, I would probably, instead of Silence of the Hermit, I'd probably go with Fool card. If you have a really good Fool like I do here, where you have, I have a really good Fool. Where is it at? This one here, right? 10% attack, 10% or 10% HP, 10% HP, 10% HP, and 91 HP. So you could do something like this, get him up to 11,000 HP, and then suddenly, you know, you're at like not quite 4,000. You know, you're at like 3,500 HP, and you're in the dying state at more HP than most characters even have, right? Like, well, I guess maybe not, but you could still be at like 3,500 HP and be considered dying and get insane damage resist. So that's something you could consider as well. I'm always a fan of the Wheel of Fortune because these are all good. You know, extra energy recovery is great because he's not very good at that. You know, you can't afford to Furious Pursuit every turn without some help, but getting attack and defense is good. A little bit of self-healing is typically good. Damage reduction is good because it kind of, I don't think it stacks super high with all that stuff does, but I'm always just a fan of Wheel of Fortune. Also, I didn't know I could do that. Did you? Whoa, look at that. So I genuinely think Guzman is just a really good character. As far as who to run with him, he's kind of self-sufficient. You don't really got to worry about it. I like running No Will in damage scenarios because she has the aggression thing. But like, to be fair, the people that have the flags aren't that good. The drifters are like Miguel has the good one, and then No Will has the other one, neither of which I'm probably going to be running. So I typically run him without the leader Zora. And then I like running, I mean, you know, with the normal, I like running him with Gloria, Coco, things that are just generally pretty good supports that can kind of help keep them alive. Coco can give him a damage 3 and a damage reduction 3, makes him kind of a fucking monster. But yeah, let's go ahead and take a look here at my damage showcase. I always say I don't min-max it. This one, I kind of min-maxed a little bit more. I probably could have done better, but I didn't want to put in too much effort either. I was trying to get this video recorded. This is not the one where I had that 100,000 HP. Or 10,000 attack, rather, whatever the fuck I'm talking about. I did have one where I had I also had that much HP. In fact, maybe I can show you in combat how much HP we can get as Guzman as well. But if we take a look here, I'm basically, all these characters are serving a very specific purpose here. Because it's going to play pretty fast, let's just go ahead and say Nono Will is going to apply Vulnerable 3. That's her whole entire job. Gloria is going to put her flag down to give a 15% buff, and then she's going to get herself killed because she doesn't need to be alive for her flag to give the buff. Homa is going to not really do that much. The movement and the damage aren't that good because he already gives himself attack 2, but she is going to lower the defense by, I think it's 60%, so it is actually pretty good. Then she's going to get herself killed. Etta is going to give him damage 3 and magic defense, both of which give him damage. And then I think she is then fine after that. August is going to summon 2 assassins and then get himself killed along with his 2 assassins. We are running, I had to get 5 deaths because we are running the devil card here. And so we get all 5 deaths by doing that. August is super important because he's 3 of the deaths. And like, we can't let Nono Will die because she has the leader's aura, so we need her to live. We need the protagonist to stay alive. And Etta just can't die from where she stands to buff. So she shreds the defense. He's going to go up, and for his first hit, that is the Darkest Blade. So if we take a look here, he did the Darkest Blade, so now he is getting the mana conversion, right? He's not injured right now, so he's not getting the magic defense buff here, but he is getting 80% of his magic defense, and he's at 5424 right now. And he'll get quite a bit higher, but not quite 10,000, I don't think. Vulnerable 3. She also has Judgment on her that increases it by another 10%. So Shadow Assassin, he jumps there, Shadow Assassin. And then she rumps here. This is actually really important. This assassin moves to protect himself. So she has to throw this down so he can't move. He kept running away and living. It was really annoying. And then this gives a damage 3 and a magic defense 2. He attacks that guy. You go ahead and do Fondness, and then they push everybody, and we lose 1, 2, 3, 4, and that guy just died. So now we're at max stacks. All right, so let's take a look here. Sorry, the recording had like a bug in the middle of it. So what was he at last turn? It was like 5,400. All I did is move this guy here. That's the only thing you missed, and just that way he dies, and I can get the recording. So now he's at 9,000. So let's take a look. He's about to attack. What buffs does he have on him here? He's got Ballure and Speed, which are all whatever movement. None of these are damage. Ballure is, but we're not counting it. 80% of his 2,000 going straight to his magic defense. Pretty darn good. He is getting the 50% boost because he is currently injured. The magic defense 2 is helping there. Damage 30%. 10 stacks of the devil. 20% attack. Leader's aura attack. Aggression skill damage attack. And the banner aura damage as well. And then this guy has, we are going to ignore 40% of his defense as well, because of the axe, right? Because we have less HP than he does, or less percent HP. Physical defense down 3, vulnerable 3, judgment. After dealing damage, depletes the target's energy, cannot be consumed. Okay, that one doesn't do anything. So let's take a look here. I actually don't remember. I think it just passes 100,000 over the 2 hits. Raid order, Warhorn, you gotta help us out. 65,000 and 37,000. 65,000 plus 37,000. 102,000 damage. Now, that is not incredibly impressive necessarily. I mean, it's good. It is good. But I have gotten around that much damage with a couple characters. But one of the things I think that makes him good is, one, the enemy didn't have, they weren't really low on their defense, right? They still had some defense. Also, I didn't have the Highland advantage, which is pretty big actually. And it's like, you're just using a 2 energy, no cooldown skill. Yeah, it does 180% damage, but you could do that every single turn. It's not like a Night Raven where it costs 4 energy and you need to have the whole world to supply it. This guy can really easily keep Furious Pursuit going. If you just have even a little bit of energy regeneration, or if he just can't use it for 1 turn, he can then use it the next turn, right? But also if you just have like 1 energy regeneration every now and then. But yeah, just great damage, cool character. And 1 second, watch this. Boom, look at that. Just like that, I've changed Guzman from a primary single target damage dealer to now like a full strike back build. So now he could just kind of go forward, activate this skill, activate his evil Luxite to give him heal and damage and extra movement, and then get around people that do this, and they're going to attack him. He's going to counterattack. He's going to have even more defense because of his extra defenses here. He has built-in lifesteal now here, and he has built-in lifesteal here. So now he not only has like insane HP, he also is just going to keep himself alive, which is like a really cool way of doing it. And now we have more of an HP focused bruiser style, where his whole goal now is to maintain the dying state as much as he can by getting hit, and then, you know, having a heavy damage hit while also being self-sufficient in terms of his own buffs, his own movement, his own healing. And he has the long range poke. If they try to get away, you could pull them in. Or if you don't need the long range, you could switch it out for just a straight up stun and try to stun multiple characters and just be a bruiser in the middle of it. Pass an 8,000 attack. Let's see how much attack he actually has. Sorry, how much HP he actually has. So if we take a look here, he has 8,359. But if we actually start the fight, let's take a look. Bada bing, bada boom. He actually goes up to 11,000. So now he's dying, right? What is 11,000 11365 times point? I think it's 30%, right? So now he'll be at almost 3,500 HP in the dying state, which is going to give him 50% damage reduction. It's an additional 50%. So it's 8% plus an additional 15 plus an additional 50 plus not to mention that he's also self-healing and dealing good damage and stuff, right? So, and he has toughness, so it doesn't even get like the debuffs from it. So again, all I'm just trying to say, this is the case for Guzman, you could say. He just has a lot of really good flexibility. I think he's a good unit. If you truly disagree with me, I want you to let me know, what am I missing about Guzman that makes him so bad? Because he's been great on my account. Since day one, I use him all the time. And he's always been pretty good. And I don't even need to star him up anymore because he's already too high of a star. I should stop at 2-star. No reason to go any further. He's farmed up. He's good to go at pretty much any role I need him. And yeah, he's been a favorite on my account for a long time, even though he's not the single most powerful character or anything like that. I just think it's hard to say he's bad. Anyway, that's the case for Guzman. Much love for Purplatypus. I'll see you on the flip-flops. Bye!
On the rise, watch the view.